What's up, everybody? You're listening to episode 28 of Just Breathing with Laud Lungs, joined by my wife, Brittany, and we're glad to be back in studio. This is Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. We have another podcast that me and Britt do every week together called Just Breathing Home Edition. That is like it sounds. It's done within our home. We talk about family, parenting, marriage, anything that has to do with home life. And so if you're interested in those types of topics and you want to join us in our dining room, we have that come out on Mondays. But this is Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. So this is a place where generally, once everything is back to normal and everybody's kind of out and about, this is the place where we'll have guests and talk to them about various things going on in this world, this beautiful world, this crazy world. And but tonight I get to talk to my wife once again, and I love it. And yeah, how you been?
Good.
Yeah, since our last conversation. Since our last Just Breathing Home Edition. I mean, I talk to you every day, so that's pretty cool.
These times are nice, though.
Anything new? Anything new that is noteworthy of discussion?
I don't know. There's always like crazy things going on in my head, but probably nothing noteworthy of discussion.
The nitty-gritty of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we have that Just Breathing Home Edition, and it's much more consistent than this podcast because there's always plenty to talk about when it comes to parenting and when it comes to marriage and when it comes to all of those things that we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yes.
All of the other problems in the world, all of the other culture stuff, all of the other fun things that we could discuss on this podcast just kind of pale in comparison to that portion of our life right now.
That is so true.
If we had like a pie graph, it would
be like 90%.
It would be 90% all of those things that we discuss on Just Breathing Home Edition Mondays. Yeah. So I thought, I don't know. I didn't really have like a deep discussion topic. There's so much going on in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you been following any of the stuff going on with, I was just looking into it today, the Israeli Hamas.
I heard about this, but I do not know about this.
Okay.
So if you want to just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I can give like a brief overview for you and for people listening that don't know a lot about kind of the background on a lot of this stuff. So you have Israel. Israel is near the Mediterranean. It's near Egypt. Egypt is, south of where Israel is located. Just above Egypt, kind of on the border with Israel, is Hamas.
Okay.
Which is a terrorist organization that basically positions itself in civilian territories and fires rockets into Israel.
Oh, goodness.
This is what they've done in the past. This is what they're doing right now, as far as I know. I haven't looked too deeply into all of this, but that's what's happening right now, and they're firing rockets right into civilian territories. And thankfully, because of the region that Israel exists in, they have some pretty massive, they call it the iron defense systems, which basically shoots down like 90% of the rockets.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
That are coming in. But it's in the more popularized, no. What's the right word?
Populated?
Populated, there you go. In the more populated areas, it basically is able to shoot this down. But what Hamas is doing right now is they're just overloading. And they're just firing hundreds of rockets.
That's so awful.
To try and overload the system so that a few get through. And basically, all of Israel right now is under,
like in warfare, basically, I guess.
Yeah, it's basically under bomb threat. You have like the remember like the sirens in World War II that would go off in Britain and stuff like that. Same type of things going on right now. It's very crazy to me because it doesn't seem like it should be a very polarized or as polarized an issue as it is. It's very strange to me, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on it as a person that maybe is a little more, hands off on the issue. Because obviously I've already summarized it, and I put Israel as the nation that's being attacked,
Right.
and Hamas being a terrorist organization.
Right.
Now, some people would argue with me, but I know Hamas is a terrorist organization because the Gaza Strip, in which Palestinians live, which everybody's always fighting for the rights of Palestinians over the rights of, their Jewish colonizers that they would see in Israel.
Right.
A lot of these rockets are going into the Gaza Strip where Palestinians are residing. So Hamas doesn't even care about the people that it's supposed to be fighting for and against the Jews.
Right.
So it's a very strange thing to me whenever there's argument, whenever there's debate, it's like, and I was just talking to you on the way here about libertarianism. I lean more libertarian in a lot of my viewpoints. I don't really agree with our interest in being the world police and, putting our hand in a lot of foreign conflicts. I'm more prone. I understand the nuance of that. And I think we should have a highly sophisticated military and special ops corps that are out there killing terrorists. I'm all for killing bad guys. I'm all for, going out there and stopping schemes that want to come to my country and hurt me. So I understand the need for the military. I understand the need for especially special operations units that are so highly advanced now that maybe, in my opinion, again, I've never been in the military, but in my opinion, from just the research that I've done, I don't think we need the ground troops there anymore. I think we need to leave these regions to themselves to fight for their own democracy. So it's actually like self-made, not force this democracy upon people that don't want you there. Sure, there are some that love us being there. And if you listen to any troop, there are so many people that are happy that we kicked these terrorists out of their villages because those terrorists are raping their children and their wives and, just doing all manners of horrific things. I want them to die. I don't know if our country needs to be the one that resides there to make sure these things happen.
Right.
And it's a very nuanced, very difficult argument. But, so we were talking about libertarianism, and that usually is where libertarians fall. They're more isolationist. They don't really want to be involved in these foreign conflicts. So that being said, I have no idea where I was going with that.
You are somehow bringing it back to Israel.
I know. And I don't remember. I had a point. What was I even talking about? So libertarianism, Israel.
The one group of being a terrorist group.
Oh, yes, I remember. So we were talking about how we try to bring democracy into, these regions that didn't have it before. And I like the concept because democracy's awesome. Democracy leads to individual, growth and wealth and, all of these wonderful things that would bring up these countries into the modern age and really pull them out of poverty. Love democracy. I don't know if you can force it on somebody. I don't know if you can. That being said, to bring it back to Israel, which was my main point, was we already have a democracy, a declared democracy, a democracy that was formed by its people in Israel. And it's the only democracy, functioning democracy, that exists in the Middle East.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
The only one.
Wow.
Every other one is, a totalitarian type dictator.
Yeah.
Essentially. Some have a little bit more leeway, a little bit of voting systems that aren't really there.
Yeah.
As we saw with the Arab Spring and all of the uprisings that happened, a few years ago. But, Israel is the only democracy, and it's surrounded by countries that are very clear in their genocidal desires to destroy Israel and wipe the Jews off the map.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a weird thing to me in this age of Black Lives Matter, in this age of Asian Lives Matter, in this age of Trans Lives Matter, in this age where I've seen people get canceled, I've seen people lose their jobs, I've seen people, come after other people that are anti-Semitic when it's needed.
Yeah.
But when actual Jews
Right.
get bombed, get rockets shot into their... I mean, we have videos of like children playing at the playground and the sirens start going off and they're just running back to their homes, just leaving strollers and just running. Because like the average time, by the time the alert systems alert the people of the incoming rockets, they have about 90 seconds to respond.
Oh.
That's it. 90 seconds. And these iron defense systems are taking out 90% of the rockets, but they have no idea where the other 10% are going to fall.
Oh my goodness.
So they're just scrambling to get indoors. They're scrambling to get to cover, to bomb shelters, all of this type of stuff. And I just don't get it. I don't get how there's any argument.
Well, argument over what?
For the people that are fighting Israel.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
It's a touchy thing, and people are walking on eggshells right now.
Why is it touchy?
Because of there's a certain sect of people that believe that the Palestinians, like that Israel came in, declared itself a state. I think it was still in the 1940s, like after World War I. But the Palestinians were residing there.
Okay.
Now, Israel was there before them.
Right.
And Palestinians came afterwards. And you have you can go back through history and you can look at Saladin and just how, different Muslims invaders had taken Jerusalem. And that's fine. Right. They conquered. They won.
Yeah.
But Israel came back in. They needed a Jewish state after what happened in the Holocaust. And so they declared a state of Israel.
Okay.
And then just kind of formed out from there.
So they didn't like that they formed that.
So ever since then, they've been in conflict. I mean, this is why they have, their 2-year mandatory military service for every citizen, male or female. I mean, it's sad. They live in constant fear of terrorist attacks. Right. They live in constant fear of these types of attacks. And they also live in fear of the scrutiny that they receive from people that are pro-Palestinian.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that these people were displaced from their homelands, even though the only people, when you come to negotiations, peace negotiations, Israel has relinquished land. I mean, the whole Gaza Strip, in which Palestinians were getting rockets falling on them from Hamas recently.
Oh my goodness.
The Gaza Strip was given back to the Palestinians by Israel.
Wow.
The Israel was like, okay, fine. As part of this peace deal, we'll give you the Gaza Strip. Yeah. This little piece of land that Israel already is a small country.
Right.
But they're like, fine, I'll give you this part. Yeah. You want the Gaza Strip? I'll give you the Gaza Strip. And it doesn't matter. Right. Nothing satiates the desire for these people that are calling for the complete destruction of the state of Israel.
Yeah. Wow.
I just don't understand. I'm like, where are the advocates? Yeah. Where are the advocates? Is this anti-Semitism real? Because I've never dealt with it. I'm not Jewish. I've never really been around. I mean, I have Jews in my family, but I've never really been around it to a point where I can truly grasp or understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And how there's debate, how there's any arguments going on. But what do you think?
I mean, I'm not as learned in all of this, but I think it just comes back to just that people are hateful. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Cause you think of our country and, we just like to put, I mean, I guess I could go back, but we go back to when there was actually racism happening, and we actually had slaves,
Right.
That was just being hateful towards people. And then finally we got out of that.
Yeah.
And now we're going into a time, at least in this country, where it's kind of hateful again, where we're like dividing people up now according to their race, which I thought we didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it really just goes back to that. They hate those people. Like, I don't understand. There's no reason why, except for sin, that they just hate. I mean, this just comes down to hate. Like, why else would you want to just destroy them and their children that way?
I'm going to say something.
Like, can't you, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty, I don't know a lot about this, but like, can't they like just live together? Like, I know that sounds super ignorant and it probably is, but like, that's why America is so great.
Right.
Because we have all different kinds of people that can live together.
Right.
We don't want them to be separated.
Right.
Because then that divide makes lines and divisions and makes more room for hate.
Right.
Because you can say that's those people and we are our people.
Mm-hmm.
No, if we can all be together, I mean, that's a really simplistic way of looking at it, but I mean, that's what it comes down to.
I mean, it's the simplistic but most scientific way to actually look at this. There's no biological differences other than our melanin levels, and our melanin levels were only developed because of the climates in which we evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, science discounts everything that's being promulgated right now in terms of critical race theory, in terms of all of this dividing and segregation that's continuing to happen in our universities, that's continuing to happen in Black Lives Matter charters, and continuing to happen in, man, there's so many corporations that have created like safe spaces for people of different races. Like, my goodness, guys, like, we had the separate watering holes. Like, we had the separate watering fountains, whatever you want to call it.
We did away with that.
We got rid of that. Isn't it interesting though? And like, and I'm just making a statement. I'm not declaring this as fact or anything like that. But isn't it interesting how the same people that are pro-Palestinian and are very against the state of Israel are also the same people that are promulgating the race divisions?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have the same people, and I'm literally talking about the same people. I'm not trying to put people into like a box. I'm not trying to say those Democrats. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are people online that you can look at that are the kind of fathers and mothers of these new ideas on race that's going on right now in our country. And then if you look at their tweets, if you look at their articles that they might write, if they're a journalist or something of that nature that they write on the state of Israel, it's very pro-Palestinian. Now, Palestinians aren't even in this fight right now. That's the strangest thing about it. You have Hamas, which is a long time been a known terrorist organization that are used, like I said at the beginning, they are set up, there's video of this, where they are set up inside of like apartment complexes so that Israel can't respond and take out these
because then
rockets,
they'll be killing innocent people.
Because then they're going to look like the bad guy killing innocents, in Lebanon in the south. And then you have, northern interests that are against Israel from Iran. I mean, Iran right now, they've done this for a long time, but they're constantly calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. It's just a weird thing. And I just think it's prudent of us to look at the people that are calling for something with the race stuff that is so contrary to the dream of Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, yeah.
So contrary that men would not be judged on the basis of their color, but they would be judged
by
based
the content of their character.
By the content of their character.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, the most important thing is your skin color.
Yeah, now we're going back to that.
Even though scientifically, biologically, it has zero factor other than like vitamin and like, like vitamin D deficiencies and things of that nature that actually have like real world consequences for differences in skin color. But that has nothing to do with the arguments that we're having about race right now.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Now, you could make arguments that race is a more important factor when it comes to sociological issues, people living with each other,
Mm.
Interactions, interpersonal communication, interpersonal kind of interactions with each other. I don't mind having those types of conversations, but if we're going to look at it as a whole, as like biological, that's a human and that's a human.
Yeah.
We're done.
I mean,
We're done.
I
The
feel like
Palestinians and the Jews, the Israelites, I'm sorry, humans.
yeah.
Humans. And for you to take sides anywhere in any of these conversations is just weird.
Mm.
I literally can't wrap my head around it. And I'm not being naive in this too, because I definitely have hated people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very ashamed of that hate. And I think other people should be ashamed if they're hating one side or the other right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really an argument. Like, I can understand hating people, but it's shameful.
Yeah.
In any context.
Mm-hmm.
In political context, I hate it.
Right.
I hate it. I'm not a person that, like, right now in our country, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things going on since Joe Biden has become president.
Mm-hmm.
I said there was a lot of problems when Trump was president.
Mm-hmm.
These are not my leaders. I have one leader as a Christian, and that leader is God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're not responsible for my life. And I don't want to put all of this responsibility on them. I want to do the best that I can do for my country individually.
Yeah.
And then basically all I can do is say my piece, pray for them,
Mm-hmm.
and hope for the best.
Right.
There's literally nothing else we can do. Screaming at each other doesn't do anything to affect change in our country.
No.
You focus on yourself and you focus on the individual and taking responsibility for each other and making sure that we can go out and affect change in that way.
Yeah.
That's when things will change in our country.
Yeah.
Yelling about, oh my gosh, like the gas prices are going up because of Joe Biden. Oh, immigration, thousands of illegal immigrants are coming through the southern border. I could go on.
Right.
I could go on. I see the issues. And like I'm saying, I'm fine with people saying their piece. Hey, this is bad. $15 minimum wage. We've already done the research and it doesn't affect the change that you're hoping for.
Right.
It sounds good. It doesn't work economically.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to put a lot more small businesses out.
I think the key with all of that is not like, because I hear what you're saying, like yelling at each other and just blaming each other. That's not going to solve the problem. Well, you do need to talk about it, though. You do need to bring it up.
Talk about it, but you don't need to yell at some other side that you have built up.
Yeah.
I hate this Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, alt-right, leftist jargon.
Right. Well, I think it's funny.
You know what I mean?
So, yeah. I mean, if we're not, I always think because of homeschooling, but with the Pledge of Allegiance, it's like united we stand. But like, that's going to be, I mean, I don't want to be like a negative Nancy here, but if we're not united and we're divided, like we're not going to do very well. And like, we're not going to solve these problems.
Right.
Like, yeah. So if we're taking sides and we're just blaming each other and we can never compromise or like work things out just because it's with another side, like we're not going to get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing's going to get solved. And yeah.
I mean, one of the things that really bothers me, and I was telling you about a comment that I made on my one friend from college. He made a post just asking like, how much blame should we put on presidents for things happening in our country? And I thought it was a brave question. I think these are the types of questions that we should be asking. Because then I was able to, I mean, a lot of people answered and they were very hyper politicized, but like, I just answered and I was like, no one person is to blame for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we need to start taking more and more responsibility over our country, and stop looking to our presidents to fix things.
Yeah, we look to them like a king or
we look to them like a king and then wonder why they act like it.
Yeah.
Like the whole time that Trump was in office, all I heard was dictator. He's a dictator. He's like Hitler. He's this, he's that. He's going to take over. All of this stuff. And then they wonder why it appeared like he acted that way.
Right.
You know, or that people followed him in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or that people, when they voted, really thought like, this guy is like a dictator. I think he's going to like do a coup and take over the country and like all of this stuff, which was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And people will point to January 6th. That, come on, guys. We can go through that if you want, like a detailed undertaking of that. But yeah, we care so much about January 6th, but we don't care when our cities burn to the ground or Black-owned communities burn to the ground. Give me a break. But all I'm saying is we look to our leaders like God.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why there's this religious following around them. We wonder why they are gaining so much power. Right. The executive branch was never supposed to have as much power as they have today.
Yeah.
That power is supposed to be in the Senate and in the House.
Mm-hmm.
But we're like, we want our things done. We want things provided to us. So we're like, sure, I'll give you more executive power.
Yeah.
I'll let you have more executive order abilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll let you. And we wonder why this person has the power of a king.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we let it happen incrementally.
Yeah.
And we need to be very careful of that. And that's the libertarian coming out of me, you know. But it's not libertarian in the sense that, like, I'm more conservative on that. I like where we started.
Mm-hmm.
With the balance of powers. It was slow. It was hard to get anything done. And I think that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was hard to declare war. It was hard to pass a bill that would affect the lives of everyone in the country. It was hard. And that's good.
Right.
Because then you don't have dictators.
Yeah.
Then you don't have parties in control.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't have all of the things that we're complaining about.
Yeah.
We've given the power, and then we're wondering why the government has so much power.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah. So that's frustrating to me. But just going back to the Israel thing for just a minute, because I think it's very important to be talked about. Just because I see a lot of people very silent about it. Because they know that if they come out like super pro-Israel, which I'm not super pro-Israel. I'm not like this Christian that's like, yeah, the homeland of Jesus. Like, you know, we need to be for Israel. Like, I don't see that in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I hope that those Jews become Christians.
Right.
And accept like that the Messiah had already come that they're waiting for still.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Well, I think Christians are like that. And I don't know where I stand on this because I do think that they're still a very special people. But, I mean, like God.
I think everyone's a special people.
Well, everyone's
going to go down that path.
Yeah, well, that's true. But this is where I think they get it from. In the Old Testament, like if you mess with Israel, like you're going to be in trouble. Like even when God let them be conquered, he always punished those nations with how cruel they were to them, even after they were conquered, after Israel was conquered. So, like, I mean, God's looking out for them. Now, Jesus came, and so now there's salvation for all people, not just the Jews, which he always had in mind.
Right.
But I think those are the original people that God picked. So I think that, I mean, I don't think you want to mess with them. But I mean,
there has to be some type of blessing still on them from when they were chosen. I agree with that. I don't see anything in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, that kind of alludes to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even see Jesus talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like you, I don't really fully know where I stand on that. And there are a lot of other smarter people that have talked about it. And I just don't care about that issue right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that important for my life. But a lot of Christians are more pro-Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a little nervous about being so pro-Israel on social media, I've noticed. It's kind of like praying for Israel, you know?
Right.
I mean, people that are even from Israel have gotten crapped on social media.
Oh, wow.
Like there's this, the girl that played Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot, I think is her name. She like just put out like, hey, my heart's breaking for what's going on in my homeland.
Yeah.
I mean, she's from Israel.
Oh, wow.
So like, but all of these pro-Palestinian people, because she's Hollywood, and Hollywood is very left-leaning, and they're very pro-Palestinian, and which is just weird. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, these countries exist now. Would you like to just remove an entire group of people from the country that they were born into?
Yeah.
It would be like us saying, like, to Americans, you know what? It's time for us to go back. And we're a melting pot, so that go back, I don't know where to go.
Right.
Like, I don't totally fall in England.
Yeah.
I don't totally fall in Germany.
Right.
I don't totally fall in Italy, where my mom's side is from. I don't totally fall anywhere. You know, but they expect this with the state of Israel to just kind of remove themselves, even though they're a melting pot of Jews from all over the world that just came back to seek this refuge for Jews that were receiving persecution in other places around the world. It's a strange thing. There is such a Jewish persecution that, you know, most obviously with the Nazis, you had that horrible persecution and genocide, but like in so many other places, including America, there's this weird anti-Semitic thing that exists, and I don't know if it's a biblical thing.
I think it's biblical.
You know, I don't know exactly what it stems from. I mean, you get the same.
And you know, so here's another interesting thought. So I honestly think that you would get that kind of persecution with Jews, specifically because they live out their faith. Usually, like a Jew has all their traditions and stuff, and they worship God. And Christians do also, and Christians get persecution too. Now, you don't see it as much in this country, mostly because this is going to be
you see it all the time.
This is going to be a little controversial, but like, because it's only the Christians who like actually live out their faith that are persecuted in this country.
Okay.
But if you are a Christian and you accept, how do I say this? Well, and you just don't actually believe the Bible to be completely true.
Right.
And you kind of hug everyone else that has other religions or other things that are against the word of God, then you won't be persecuted.
Right. Right.
So I think there's something that's biblical about following God, even though, as we believe in our Christian faith, that Jesus, you know, let everyone in, and not just Jews, whereas they don't believe that yet. They're still waiting for the Messiah to come. So I mean, I think that has something to do with it, because through all ages they've been persecuted. Yeah. And then Christians have been since Christ came, since the Messiah came. Those who live out their faith, and Jesus says it in the Word of God. They say, "You will suffer, you will be persecuted." Yeah. And
well, it's important to note, and people can kind of make of this what they will, but you know, if we go back to Old Testament context, and this is only referring to the Arab race and Jews. You know, the Arab race and the Israelites, I mean, they come from the same father. I mean, it's in their text too. They all come from Abraham. Ishmael was the son of Abraham and his servant.
Hagar, yeah.
Hagar. And it's a sad story. It's extremely sad, because at one point he sends Hagar and Ishmael away. Because he had another son with his wife Sarah. And so Hagar and Ishmael go off, but one of the key verses, and a lot of people point to this, make of it of what you will. There are smarter people that talk about this verse, but it basically says, you know, Ishmael will grow up to be like a wild ass, always kicking at, you know, the Israelites. Oh, you know, he will always be aggressive towards that people.
And that's really where it stems from.
And I think there's some truth to that because you can see it throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been an Arabic group of people that have either taken over the Jews, that have persecuted the Jews, that have, it's historical.
Yeah.
It's historical. And I think it's interesting. And I think it's something to kind of put in the back of your mind when you're looking at a lot of these issues. But going back to the, kind of the persecution that Jews and Christians both experience, it's very disproportional to any other religion out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have some communist countries that just don't like any religion.
Mm-hmm.
You had like the Soviet Union that just kicked all of the Orthodox Christianity that existed there, pushed them underground. Catholicism was gone. If it really existed there. I'm not sure about Catholicism in Russia, but, and then you had China, and now they're against every religion. I mean, they're very against Christianity, number one, but then they're also very against Buddhism. They don't even like Tibet, like the Tibetan monks and different things like that. They don't even allow them to be like a part of their lexicon. Like they're not talked about. They're not allowed to be in any movie that's watched. Wow. They just want to forget about these people, which is weird. But overall, worldwide, it is this Jew-Christian persecution that just kind of happens across the board. And I think it's necessary for people to just be aware of this. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have some awful things happening in some Muslim countries where, like, if you're homosexual, you get thrown off rooftops. That's or awful. If you're in Iran, the more humane option is if you're homosexual, they force you to transition to the opposite gender so that you can be in the relationship that you desired through your sexuality, but just now as a transitioned male.
Oh my.
Yeah. Real nice. No activists care about that though. And then during, like, especially we saw this most recently with ISIS, when ISIS was during the Obama administration, when it was just kind of ravaging through Syria and ravaging into Iraq and things of that nature, you had extreme religious persecution going on because they were fundamentalists in their, they were radicals, but they were fundamentalist radicals that, I mean, Christians were beheaded on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
It was wild, burned. It's wild. It's wild. But there's something to be aware of, and I think it's imperative to always ask when you see things going on of this nature, especially this violent of a nature. It's always important to ask why.
Yeah.
Just ask why.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because, I mean, I don't even know why, I guess that's a good question to ask, but I don't know if that is the right question to ask, because
what would you ask?
There's no reason that we should be violent in that way to another human being.
Of course.
Like, there's just no reason.
Right.
And now if someone has done, and then I'm about to say this, but then I can see how you can twist this as well. Like, someone does a crime and they should go to jail or something. But then you could say, what is a crime? And, it just, something that Jordan Peterson said actually in an interview that I listened to with you a little while back, but he said something that I think it was really well said. I'll probably butcher it, but he said, like, as soon as we start making like these, someone else is the enemy or someone else is the villain, that's where we need to stop right there and just, I don't know what question we ask, but we can just say stop.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. Like,
not even ask the question.
There's no,
like, should this person be a villain? Should
there's
this
no
person
justification. Like, even, I'm very passionate about, like, when, about against trafficking, especially sex trafficking. And like, there's a lot of things going on overseas. And I mean, here too, but like where there's like a mass like rape that's just accepted by governments. And like that burns me up. And I automatically, like, it's very easy for me to villainize those people who are doing that because it is.
Yes.
It is. But even with that said, it wouldn't be right to wish that upon them or their children. And so we need to stop there as soon as we start to villainize those other people, because that's where we start to go down the same road that they go down.
Right.
And not to say that we don't stand up for what is right and for what is just.
Right.
But as soon as you villainize someone, you're in the wrong place. And I think that's where we've gone wrong with all of these things. We're making divisions to the point of villainizing other people, and then we can justify the horrendous things that are being done. Like, at what point did those people that are doing these awful things, let's just use the Palestinians to the Israelites, like, at what point did this, terrorist group get to in their own hearts to think that this is good and that this is okay to bomb children and people just over land? There's a problem there. So like, I mean, in my mind, I'm like, I don't, even if it is justly their land, which I don't think it is, there is no reason for that. There's no reason for that. The Jewish people aren't doing something awful to them that they should do that.
Right.
So it's just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And I don't know the solution, but you definitely have to stop yourself. If you find your own personal mind and heart villainizing someone else, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
And you can't just continue to go down that road, or then you're going to be just like the people that you think are so awful.
Yeah, I don't think there's any place for, and this sounds corny, but there's no place for hate in a civilized world. There's not. There's no place for hate.
Yeah.
And right now, we live in this weird state of trying to make the world a better place through hate.
Yeah. Like almost shaming people and hating them into their place.
Yeah.
Like what kind of world is that?
Let's get together, as many as we possibly can, and let's hate all over this person. And you're just like, this is how we bring about change?
Is that how we bring about positive change?
Yeah. And any time that you've ever looked at a government or, leaders that are trying to accomplish goal or gain power or anything like this, there's always an other that they're targeting. It's disgusting, but if you go back and you look at some of the propaganda of the Nazis that was being distributed out to the German people, kind of a little, even before the rise of the Nazis as a political party and as a movement in that country, this propaganda was already being distributed by the party.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the way that they painted Jews, the way that they made it seem like they were taking all of the economic interests away from the German people. It's sickening, but we have to remember that it's real.
Yeah.
And the same ways in which humans were deceived then, which wasn't that long ago, people are still alive that existed then. Those same ways are being used now to turn people against others and to make others hate other people. And it's not okay.
No.
It's not okay. Like I don't even like terms like woke, and I mean I've heard some people use like the elite. I've heard like so many different names that people are trying to pinpoint the right name to call these people that just gang up and just dump loads of hate on people and try to get them to lose their jobs and to, kill themselves or, all manners of evil if we're really going to come down to it. But it really is just, they're just mean. And we need to just start calling it what it is. those people are mean.
Right.
They're
right.
bullies.
Right. And point out what they're doing.
Right.
Like
if we all ganged up in the comment section of someone that's being canceled and just said, "You guys are mean."
Yeah.
I was going to use other words, but it might sound hateful. You guys are mean.
Right.
Stop being mean.
Yeah, we need to. So that's the other thing, right? So when we notice those who maybe, when you we have to not be fearful too. I feel like when you talk about what was happening to the Jews with the Nazis and stuff, I'm sure that there was a lot of people who didn't agree, but were scared.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'll be able to, I want to be someone who is not scared to be hated because I stand up for other people.
Right.
And, but we have to, because when you see our culture or other people bullying someone else or being super hateful towards someone else, even if you don't agree with, maybe you partly agree with them, I don't know, but we have to stand up and stop that and talk and say something so that the whole world doesn't think that everyone thinks this way. Mm-hmm. I feel like that happens so much. There's just a small group of people who hate, and then everyone is so scared to feel that hate that they just keep their mouth shut. And then it seems like the majority, agree with this point of view.
Nice. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And we never put ourselves in I've done this. We never put ourselves fully in that other person's shoes and be like, gosh, they're probably going through the worst time of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's gotten canceled, even if they're in the wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Most of the time they're not.
Yeah.
But even if they did something just abhorrent and they're canceled.
Yeah.
Even though we maybe don't even have any court cases or know if the truth is out. It looks bad.
Yeah.
I'll even say that. I won't even say abhorrent because that's putting actual guilt on people that we don't know usually. Mm-hmm. We usually don't know. We're just I think this person is a scumbag.
Right. We've never met this person, but from what we see in the media, it seems like.
Yeah. I may even like that person at one time, but right now I don't.
Yeah.
Because the gang, the mob told me I shouldn't.
Yeah.
So we need to cancel this person. And you're just gosh, you put that person's spouse, you put that person's kids through the worst time of their lives. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You made the world
permanently
one less person of a better place.
Yeah.
You're not canceling and making a better place. You're literally removing and completely destroying that person from being better than they were.
Oh, yeah. And their family.
So now you were removed from the pool of jerks that already exist in this world. You've removed one that maybe had some potential to grow and become a better person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Yeah.
The ratio is off now.
Right.
And it just skews more mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said, though. I think everyone struggles with it. Everyone struggles with it, but hate is so toxic to you, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even, man, you just think of all the examples of people, just take trafficking, for example. Just the people that have gone through trafficking and that have been rescued and the ways in which they've been able to find the strength to forgive the people that held them in captivity.
Yeah.
And put them through the most horrific experience of their life. We have no excuse for the petty things that we hold on to and say, I deserve to hate this person.
Yeah.
I am in the right. I am totally righteous in my hate.
Yeah. For my head, since I believe in the Bible and I believe that Jesus is the Savior, it always points back to him, because even the word hate, as you're talking, I'm people could be thinking right now, as you're talking and as I'm talking, that we're hateful because we think that certain things are wrong because the Bible says it's wrong. And,
Yeah.
like all these things, they could be thinking, well, you have no room to talk because you yourself is hate, like we are hateful. And, which the word of God would say, actually, no, that's not true at all. And that's how it always points back to Jesus, because it's really only in him can you fully understand like what love is. Because some things that like a Christian, don't get me wrong, Christians are human. So sometimes they do say things in the wrong way, or they just say something that's wrong. But like we are to love people with truth. And sometimes truth doesn't feel nice, but it really is the balance, though.
Right.
That love and that truth is the balance that keeps people from actual hate, which destroys you.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything that happens in this world as I get older and I learn more, I'm like, man, Jesus, we need Jesus so much, because without that understanding, or even if you want to take Jesus out of it, if you just have decided that you just don't believe that right now, that foundation that he built of love, you can't go against that.
No.
You just can't.
No. You'd be hard pressed to argue.
You would be very hard pressed to argue the love that he presents.
This love thing.
If you read the Gospels and you read the things that he said, man, he was high standards here. But
it was high standards, but this philosophy of love permeates through all of our discourse. We all want to get to this place where everybody, loves. I mean, we have these slogans that don't make a lot of literal sense, but like love is love, and there's a lot of contextual stuff to that. But like, love is love in the right context and defined correctly. Right. Love is love. And that is the final fight, like that is the thing worth dying for.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of like, we're sleeping with the, the slutty second of hate right now. Instead of the beautiful bride that we have in love, we're just choosing to just kind of give ourselves over to hate and just be like, do what you want with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's not continue to sell ourselves short of what could actually bring about lasting change if we decided to love each other. That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Let's stop dividing ourselves by race. Let's love each other.
Right.
Let's stop, pitting one side against another in these world conflicts. Let's love each other and say, how can we get to love in this scenario? Whatever else you want to bring into the arena, into the fight. Let's see how these two things can get to love.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of the hate. I'm sick of it. I've done a lot of soul searching because I am very hateful and I'm naturally inclined, maybe we all are naturally inclined to first react and hate.
Yeah. I think we're all naturally like that.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of soul searching lately, and that soul searching has led me further away from politics. I try to stay informed, but I try to stay out of the fight, the hateful fight that exists.
It's very easy to get sucked into.
Yeah, well, and when people try to bring that type of stuff up, like you have to be careful. Like, you don't want to get mad at them, because what are you doing then?
Yeah.
What are we doing? I don't want to hate. You're an idiot! Like, no, come on. I need to act in love with the people that want to bring division, that want to constantly be like, oh, the Republicans, oh, the Democrats, oh, all this, all that. Let's take a step back and let's look how we can lead with love to better our country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And That's such a corny thing. Gosh. But it's so true.
It's so true. And it's actually, it does sound corny, but it's actually the hardest thing to do.
It is. Well, like I said, our natural inclination is to hate, and I think it's hate always comes from fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we fear something because we're either not knowledgeable about it or, whatever the factor is that's making us afraid of a people group, that's making us afraid of, government overreach or lack of government or whatever it is that is making us fearful, we choose to just get to hate because somehow that feels, we feel protected.
Yeah.
There. We feel like our defenses and our attack positions are up and ready to go.
Well, it's easier to blame other people than to take ownership yourself.
Yes.
And it's easier to blame than to forgive other people too.
Yes.
So it's easier. It's just easier.
Yeah.
Because man, we would get a lot further, especially with this whole cancel culture, a lot further if we forgave people. Mm-hmm. Not that we don't hold people accountable. If they actually come through the law system and they did something wrong, then we don't want other people to get hurt. Right. That would be love. We don't want other people to get hurt. So something should happen with them so that they don't hurt other people. But we can forgive them.
Right.
And then they have to deal with what they did.
Right.
And then, I feel like that would solve a lot of problems. We would be able to maybe find solutions because we wouldn't just be blaming each other. And we would be like, okay, well, you did do that wrong. I did this wrong. I forgive you. You forgive me. Okay, well, what's the best solution then? Mm-hmm. But we don't do that. We want to be right. We're prideful. We don't want to forgive. We don't want to admit we're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I want to start praying more for myself personally. And I want to start praying for the leaders in my country that when they make mistakes, that they take responsibility.
Yeah. And
I also want to get better at celebrating when they accomplish something great.
Yeah.
And when I accomplish something great.
Yeah.
I think that is so important, is that we take responsibility for our own lives, mistakes and all.
Yeah.
And we celebrate when we do something great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so important to do that. And I want to do that when Biden does something great. Mm-hmm. When Joe Biden does something great, I want to celebrate with him because a win for him should be a win for our country.
Yeah, if we're unified.
Now it needs to be a win.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a political move. I'm not going to be like, oh, it was a good move there,
Yeah.
No, it needs to benefit the whole, and I'll be like, good, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you.
That is hard.
But we need to take responsibility also.
Yeah.
We need to take ownership, and you can't lead in love. You can't love at all if you're not in control of yourself. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is if your emotions don't control you. If your emotions control you, you won't lead in love.
Right, right.
You have to be in control of your body, your mind, your emotions.
Amen.
Before love can actually be the thing that you're pursuing and the thing that you're leading with.
That's so true. That could be a lesson in itself, man.
Yeah.
I feel like, this is off topic, but I used to be controlled by my emotions, and I've learned that you don't have to be, and I'm so thankful for that. But I feel like a majority of people don't know that. Like, I feel like a majority. Yeah, I feel like a large majority, and I could be wrong because I haven't studied this, but it seems to me like a large majority of people feel like they are just given over to their mind and their emotions, and that they don't have control. Like, basically, it's their excuse. Like, well, I feel this way, or I think this way, and it is going to be that way forevermore. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
I feel that would be helpful for our communities and our country if we weren't controlled by our emotions and our the whims of our mind, every thought we think, if we think that's always true and right, then yikes.
Yeah. I see this all the time. I see
We're in
this
big
all
trouble.
the time. When we lead with our emotions, we get a lot of places. We get a lot of places in our country. And we get deeper in our ignorance.
Mm,
It's really hard when you lead with your emotions to come back from that.
yeah.
And I've seen so many people on social media, and I've seen so many people on, even just in personal conversations where they lead with their emotions and then they don't know how to get back.
Yeah.
Once revelation comes, or someone, in our conversation, I'll say something, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess I never actually looked into this topic, so I was completely wrong.
It takes a lot of
And now
humility to get back.
It takes a lot of humility, and that's a large ship to turn around,
Yeah.
because your emotions are a huge part of who you are, and they're an important part of who you are.
Yes.
But if you let them lead your life, it's a big ship. It's a big ship to turn around.
Yeah.
But humility, like you said, is the first step. Knowledge is in there. Obtaining more knowledge about things before you let your emotions make a decision on something
Right.
will keep you out of trouble.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. Having the wherewithal of yourself and being able to say, okay, I feel this way, but it might not be true, and to just be okay with that, and to be able to learn more and kind of instruct your emotions and tell them what is right.
Yeah.
with knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add, or should we wrap it up?
I think that's good.
All right, let's wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Just Breathing Home Edition. I hope you'll come back on Monday for Just Breathing. Or no, wait. I messed it up. This is Just Breathing with Laud Lungs.
You're so used to.
Thanks everybody for listening to Just Breathing with Laud Lungs. I hope you'll join us. This is where I was going on Mondays when we have another episode of Just Breathing Home Edition. Hope to be back in this studio more. I loved having conversations here. I love my table.
It's a very nice table.
Mango's woodworking shop. And I hope to get him on the podcast at some point. He's a fun person to talk to. He's one of my coworkers at my full-time job. I talk to him every day now, so we won't have any issues talking to each other. So hopefully I'll be able to get him on the podcast, and he could sit at his creation at least one time
in its home environment.
Yes. And I hope to get some more people on here, just to have different conversations. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Before you go, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the page. I want to get those subscribers up so we have more of a community that are watching these videos, and that way in the future I could do more live stuff with you guys. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video goes up. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or somewhere else, make sure that you subscribe and follow us, and we will catch you on the next video. Love you all. Bye.